This is a recipe that I'm very excited about from my new book. It's called Italian Stromboli Buns. Stromboli is an Italian loaf. You make a dough and then you roll it out, fill it with all sorts of Italian flavours, roll it up and bake it. But to make it more bite-sized and picnic friendly, I'm doing Stromboli buns. So in my mixer, I've got 500 grams of strong white bread flour, and I'm going to add to that 10 grams of fast action yeast and then 10 grams of salt. So blend those together. And then with the mixer on about medium speed, just slowly pour 350 ml of warm water into the mixer and let the dough hook do the work. It'll slowly come together, it'll be sloppy at first, but it will come together. Just let it do its own thing for about 7 minutes on medium speed. Okay, so this bread is nice and stretchy, it's got a good elasticity. I'm going to pop the bread dough into a well-oiled bowl. I'm going to leave it to rise. Now it could take half an hour if it's a hot day. It could take 3 hours if it's a cold day. So just gently coat it in the grease so it doesn't dry out. And I'm going to cover this with a bit of cling film or a wet tea towel. Put it into a safe place, doesn't have to be too warm, and let it rise until doubled in volume. So the bread's been proven and it's about doubled in size. It's taken about an hour and a half today. So I'm going to flour the worktop and then out with this beautifully aerated mixture. Now don't knock it back so much that it becomes flat and dull. The rolling will do that. Gently manipulate it into a rough rectangle, a tiny bit of flour on the bread itself, and then roll this into a rectangle. And make sure that you keep checking the bread isn't stuck to the surface. Keep moving it about in all that flour. To make it even more Italian, when rolling it out you can use a bit of polenta, but if you can't find it, flour is fine. So I'm going to flip it around and just move it that way and then roll it the other way like this. It needs to be about just under a centimetre in thickness. So that's looking pretty good. So with the longest side to you, I'm ready for rolling, but first the filling. So I've got some tomato puree and into that I'm going to squeeze quite a fat garlic clove and just give that a good stir in. Some salt, just a gentle grating of salt and a gentle grinding of pepper and heat. I love heat in Stromboli buns and I use these dry chili flakes. So a good few pinches, let's just sprinkle it in. Let's be liberal with the chili and then mix that together. It's just a case then of spreading this onto that base and then just roughly spread it out over the bread. And then just a small red onion, sprinkle that over, finely chopped if you can. Oh gosh, it's making my mouth water, it smells so good. This Stromboli bun, it needs to have Parma ham, the savoury, salty Parma ham. And rip it really inelegantly, just sort of tear it like a wild beast here and there, just throw it down. So that should be enough Parma ham, even for my greedy standards. And then the English ingredient in this, although it's an Italian-inspired bake, I've got to have cheddar cheese. There's no cheese like it. Cheddar, as we all know, melts like beautiful molten lava and it stays gooey and sticky and it's perfect. So plenty of cheddar, strong cheddar too. You've got strong onions, you've got garlic. You're going to need some strong cheese on this. And then finally, one last honour of the Italian flag, some beautiful fresh green basil leaves. All you need to do is grab a few leaves, roll them up in your hands a little bit, and then tear the leaves. And that expels all of the oils and the flavour in the leaf, gets it out in the open, gets it ready to infuse into the cheese, really flavours the dish beautifully. So just scatter all the ingredients then out to the edges. That looks beautiful. And then roll. So with the longest side to you, first start off with quite a tight little spiral here and then use that to roll. And as you roll, gently tug the spiral and roll so that you get a nice tight spiral and all the filling stays inside. That's exactly what you want. And then finally, a quick tug here and roll it up. You can see that the edges are quite uneven and there's like a bit of a spiral going on. So the best thing to do is just gently slice off each of the ends. And then with your nice even bread sausage, divide it in half, then into 4. And it's best to use a serrated knife for this so that you can gently saw through the bread, and then cut each of those into 3 buns. And then you can see the really tight spiral full of that Italianate filling, all that tomato, the garlic, the onion, the basil, the cheese, perfect. So pop these into the muffin cavities, and then as you put them in, just gently press down to flatten them out. And already these smell so good and not even been baked yet. So now these are all in the tin, they need to rest for about 30 more minutes just to get a bit more flavour and aeration, and then it's into the oven and baked until they're perfectly golden, beautifully crispy and molten on the inside. So these have really risen beautifully. The inside is perfectly molten and it smells like an Italian pizzeria. So leave them to cool for about 2 minutes and then take each one out and onto a cooling rack to finish cooling, and then it's just a case of devouring. Italian bliss.